All right, we've got a packed day today, so let's get started, and I'm sure our colleagues will join us in a moment. So today we just are going to begin part one of two parts of the Planning and Strategic Initiatives Committee meeting, and we're starting off with the one item we have to discuss today, which is the Crosby deferred items, the Urban Growth Center bonusing and zoning. So Mr. Brandon Sloan and Mr. Richard Kelly Roots will provide a 10-minute PowerPoint presentation on this matter and then respond to questions regarding this report, and we also will have 3 delegations. Thank you. Mr. Sloan.
Thanks to the chair. So before you are portions of the zoning bylaw that were deferred from the April 29th council meeting. These items were prepared in terms of the increased density provisions and bonusing with planning and economic development. Mr. Bloom's actually going to give us an introduction to our direction we're headed downtown.
Okay, Mr. Bloom.
Thank you. Through the chair, so what I thought I would help kind of paint the picture for the current zoning proposal that's in front of you. In front of you is the aspirational vision statement for downtown Kitchener. It's in the official plan. But I want you to back up a little bit. For the last many years was developed at a time when we were really desperate for anything to happen downtown, and as a result the zoning was meant to be free and easy for business developers, anybody to do essentially anything they wanted with limited restriction. Since that time, downtown has come a long way. A lot more people living downtown, a lot more vibrant activity, and a lot more neighborhood interest in the future fate of downtown. And what we've seen from the community is definitely an attitude shift where they value what it will provide both aesthetically and as well as the benefits it provides to the community, and really looking for more assets and opportunities and not just seeing development for the sake of development. But having said that, what I believe Mr. Sloan and his team have put in front of you is really a balance between what the community wants to see and the interests of the developers, that we think this can provide both, that developers get both flexibility and transparency and upfront knowledge of what's expected, and we're very clear about what the kind of expectations that the community wants. So having said that, it certainly is time for a new bylaw downtown, and Mr. Sloan will walk you through the highlights.
Thanks, Corey. So increased density bylaw is one of the tools under the current Planning Act that a municipality can utilize. For our intents and purposes, we've had what we call bonusing in place within our zoning bylaw, currently in bylaw 85-1, but we also have the ability to increase the floor space ratio. So the amount of development that can be provided on a lot, it's related to the ratio of the lot. Currently in the zoning bylaw that we have right now, there are only 3 community benefits: building residential, doing some amenity, and heritage conservation. The objectives downtown, there's a number of things that we're trying to achieve. The new official plan that this bylaw has to conform to provides a list of a number of community benefits. We've grouped them into 4 themes. So essentially what we're trying to target here is housing. There's a number of aspects of housing, including affordable housing. Economic vitality, including business incubator space, public realm, and sustainable development. The bonusing provisions work kind of hand in hand. So there are official plan policies, there would be zoning bylaw provisions, and then we have an implementation guide to provide more details about the process and exactly how it's managed and operated. And then there's an agreement that is entered into for a property that would secure the community benefits. So under our official plan, section 15D2 of the in effect official plan establishes a maximum floor space ratio for most of the districts of 3.0. This is an important measure, and you'll find that that is a missing piece of information from some of the delegation submissions that you're receiving. It's very important that our bylaw has to conform to this official plan that's in effect. The structure that we have in the bylaw that was deferred is that there are some areas that could use bonusing provisions providing community benefits that could get up to a floor space ratio of 8. It's primarily in Victoria Street, Duke Street, Charles Street, Frederick Street area. For comparison, the One Victoria development at King and Victoria is just around 7 FSR. There are some areas that are more on the edge of downtown where we wouldn't go up to the full 8 but to a 6, and there are certain height limits in it about transition. There's some areas of the downtown as well, especially near the Market District, where the character is different, and so bonusing wouldn't necessarily be permitted within the zoning bylaw and encoded, except for a block that's close to the LRT station. The process. This is one of the benefits of what staff are recommending. Through the pre-submission consultation, there would be some discussion about the development proposal. A proponent would move forward with a site development application and a bonusing justification report. It's very important that before bonusing is even considered, that there are certain eligibility criteria that must be met. It must pass go before it moves on to being considered for bonusing. So we're not throwing out a whole bunch of things. There's still a lot of considerations. Is the site compatible? Is it suitable? Is there enough infrastructure? Does it meet kind of our urban design and official plan objectives? Once we get to that point, which would be addressed in the bonusing report, we would then be reviewing the bonusing package and looking at bonusing compliance and the community benefits, and work through the process towards the agreement and the building permit. Now, there still could be developments that do not choose to use bonusing. So this is an optional tool. It's been structured to make it somewhat attractive. It does help with process, but there may be some developments that choose not to do this, or they would like to go higher or more density, more built form. And so, like always, they can still make a development application, and it'll be considered in the normal course. A quick sample. If community benefits are considered, this location, fictitious location in the Innovation District, if they're adding a food store, that could add one FSR to the site. Having over 100 dwelling units, and with a certain percentage that are affordable, add some more floor space. 5 transportation demand management measures, some funds towards public realm that would be secured for the area right around that development, could get you to a total floor space ratio of 8, which roughly for this fictitious property works out to about 20 stories. That's where we get to the balance. As Mr. Blue mentioned, that's one of the considerations that we had is how far do we go before it triggers more of a public process and more of a review and on the details. Because the bylaw is not in place, we don't have any examples, but there was one that did a site-specific zoning bylaw amendment on King Street, proposing an office building within the floor space ratio that this bylaw has, includes 3 community benefits. With the design of the building, once you factor in the new urban growth center zoning, including setbacks and heights and parking and the bonusing, this site would not have needed a zoning bylaw amendment. And it's right within the core of our prime intensification area. So some of the advantages, because this is a little different than other municipalities. This is not what Toronto does. This is something that we have as a tool where intensification, and this is the location that we're desiring it, should positively contribute to the community. But we're still at a stage in Kitchener where we can't make things provide what some call family-sized units. We can't make a development be net zero energy. We can't enforce these things under the current legislation or the direction. We ask. What this provides is a tool that could provide that and give that option. Now, it was done in a balanced approach. as to be a bit of an incentive. From one side of things, it provides a lot of certainty, or provides more certainty anyway. It makes some of the development costs up front predefined. This is predictable, both for the community, for the city, and the developer. This is not the let's make a deal. You submit an application and go through bonusing. You don't know what the benefits, you don't know what the amounts are going to be, you don't know what the valuation is going to be. This takes all that out of it. We can integrate it to our existing process, reduces the time, expense, and risk. So yes, we're aware that the provincial government is proposing new changes to legislation. We have a lot of great city building momentum going here. We want to still be the leaders. We shouldn't totally alter our course based on different proposals, different things that might happen. We don't know what the end result is going to be. We do need to have, similar to the development charges bylaw, although we don't have an expiring time frame, we'd like to have a contemporary bylaw in place. The old bylaw is many years old, of a different era, so we would like to get this in place as soon as possible, especially when we're going into regional review and other things coming up. There's going to be many times and opportunities that we can review this into the future. We're going to have to look at it over an overall program. So the next steps under the normal course of action, we're going to prepare a bonusing guide. We could use that as an opportunity to report back on any legislative changes that might impact the zoning, although we're going to have to think of that in a broader terms with the rest of community benefits. And the next steps that we were going to be doing is looking at community benefits in the ion station areas. So this is just downtown proper right now. So the recommendation before you is to move ahead. We've done a lot of work. Let's get this in place now. And then should changes happen in the future, we will revisit. We're suggesting a few tweaks based on the commentary that we had from the statutory public meeting. And so we're here for answering any of your questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I wonder if if I see some of my colleagues have questions, if we can wait till after we hear the delegations, or is it relevant right now? Okay, so if you can cue back in, that'd be great. But I'll take note of the order. Okay, so first delegate we have is Mr. Jonathan Minnis. Thank you for your patience today, and as you know, you have 5 minutes to give your presentation.
Thank you. Good afternoon. You've probably received our May 10th correspondence and some previous correspondence. I'll try and be brief, not go into all that detail, leave it for questions. So as you know, we represent N8 32 Duke Developments, the owner of 32 Duke Street, N8 18 Duke Developments, the owner of 2 to 22 Duke Street East, the Kitchener-Waterloo YWCA, owner of 84 Frederick Street, and St. Peter's Evangelical Lutheran Church, the owner of 49 Queen Street North. And we're here further to our letters of April 10th, 11th, 12th, our attendance on April 15th, and our recent letter of May 10th, 2019. So, as Mr. Sloan mentioned, there's been some recent changes announced by the provincial government, and speaking of certainty, this has caused some uncertainty. And so, on May 2nd, they announced the Bill 108, More Homes, More Choice Act 2019, which proposes significant changes to planning legislation, a variety of acts, including basically the redrafting of Section 37 bonusing, which essentially involves, as we know today, a consolidation of Section 42/Section 51 parkland with the original bonusing. And there's still a number of missing information. There's going to be regulations that are going to be here to guide that legislation, and so we don't know much about it, but we do know it's coming fairly quickly. It was carried at first reading on May 2nd, and it's received second reading on May 8th and May 9th, so it's very fast-moving, as we know. We also learned, and this would have been just days before, that the city adopted a companion amendment to the city's official plan, and this related to including bonus implementation policies. So it precedes it, so it may not have had that in consideration, although I think we were aware that something was coming, we just didn't know what it was. And so, in light of that change, we say that it may be premature to move forward with both the final approval from the region of this OPA and also the changes in zoning that are before us today. Similar to our concerns regarding the downzoning of our clients' properties, we also say that this proposed OPA is inconsistent with the PPS, fails to conform with or conflict with the growth plan and the original official plan and city official plan, the balance of it. With respect to Section 43 and Section 6, so the bonusing and urban growth center zones that are proposed, our concern is that these are also premature given the potential to dramatically change the bonusing provision under the Planning Act. We also question why these are being heard today rather than being deferred to the other site-specific properties on May 27th. We'll be dealing with the same issues, so we don't see why you would put it forward today and not put them all together, but maybe that's just a procedural element. In conclusion, though, we think that there's really no rush to push this through. On the other side of it, if you do push both this OPA through and the zoning through, and then the province comes in and completely changes the system, you've then got a new planning process to fix the problem, whereas you have an open planning process right now which can tweak and fix the potential planning policies rather than have to start from the beginning with extra cost, extra meetings, extra time. So in our opinion, it's premature and both should be deferred to the fall 2019.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. Just to clarify, we knew that there would be some discussion, ample discussion about bonusing, and so that's why we put it on the committee day rather than on the council day. So I don't see any questions for you at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next delegation is Ms. Samantha An. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, council members. My name is Samantha An. I am here as the representative of the owner of the 17 Weber Street West, which is a law firm in downtown Kitchener here. Our law firm with 3 partners own the property at 17 Weber Street West, which is right next door to 21 Weber Street West, which is going to be rezoned, the application to rezone and for Crosby rezone has been submitted. So we have our letter submitted today, and I guess all the council members have our letter in front of you.
Yes.
So basically, we were just notified of this meeting today, last Friday. So we didn't know that this discussion has been going on, the citywide and the region-wide. So we would like to ask to defer the matter for the next chance. And we also wish to have some time for our own experts, planning experts, to investigate the matter and assess the potential impacts on our property. In investigation, we have also some concerns about the rezoning and the new development of the next door property, 21 Weber Street West, due to the zero parking and bonusing provisions. So we wish to have just to investigate and assess the impacts on our property, and so that this matter be deferred this time from this decision today. Yeah.
Okay. So this process has been going on for several years now, and I'm not sure what stopped the owners, but I just wanted to mention that to you, that every property owner who would be affected was provided with notification. Just want to mention that. Yeah.
Yeah. For the record, we just received a notice last week on Friday, so that's why we are here today.
Yeah. I understand. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Next, we have Ms. Alexandra Petrovic from the Social Development Center of Waterloo Region. Hello.
Hello, Chair Marsh, members of the committee, staff. I'm here today to address some of the issues, but from a perspective that is not usually heard through some either consultation or in the council chambers and with the committee. Addressing us all as we are in our respective roles, leaders in the community, and we are the one reevaluating and resetting the course of the development in the urban core, including both zoning, changes to zoning bylaw, and definitely moving into the next phase of residential zoning. So I am primarily addressing some of the issues which are in the realm of affordable housing and how we define it or lack of definition. And at the same time, commercial and residential are tightly connected, and there is a lot of informal economic activities that could be impacted. And the fact that we now have this great banner to be under, which is housing not as a commodity but as a human right. We see a lot of encouragement in documents that are coming from the Urban Planning Guide to strategic directions that are coming from the city, and I say we because some of the voices that we have been in touch and have been talking to do feel they're not part of the process. So I would just read a part of quote from one of our residents, and it addresses some of the development that's been happening with the renewal and LRT. And they do rightfully expect to be supported and represented by us as leaders in the community. So some of the sentiment is people shouldn't have to move just because someone else decides, right, where they live, or if where they live is of greater use to other people and is more profitable for others. It also goes with how gentrification can change the area around you. So not only displacement of people, but of activities, making you feel alienated. Just think of the message it sends to people who used to live where the LRT is and were forced to move. It tells them that they don't deserve to be near easy transportation, that they're no longer good enough to live there, that they are unwanted. So we have to accept that in so many instances we're not sitting in the same room with people in our community who see the sources of affordability crisis or of community spaces and infrastructure in the city as red tape or rent controls, right? There are other sources for the crisis we have to address as cities, as municipalities, right? That would be in the realm of investment, that would be in the realm of how decisions are being made and how people participate in those decisions. So in terms of bonusing, how often are we in the same room with people who would say, well, if we have affordable housing crisis, if we have to have rents that are no more than 30% of somebody's income, then it's not about supply in general, then it is about a very specific supply, and inclusionary zoning is really, really important piece for bonusing. Not necessarily what is the ecological footprint or if there is a mural included in the design. It's really everything that's human and environmental part of design and creation of the spaces in downtown should be part of the initial review. So we really hope to have ongoing places and opportunities to be in the same room with people who would bring constantly perspectives from their lived experience, and we have to negotiate both ways of developing our spaces. So we have this opportunity to reset the frameworks with which we make decisions. Our suggestion is to absolutely look at rights-based planning, right, which goes beyond consultations, which means that people who are moderate to low income, no income, and living in our communities, unfortunately, some of them not living very long, be part before consultations, during consultations, and in implementation phase. How we can do that together, that's to us really as leaders in the community, but moving forward to making decisions about bonusing or the next phase of zoning amendments, how can we include those voices? Thank you so much.
Right on time. Thank you very much for offering your different perspective from some of the other voices today. So thank you. No questions for you today. All right. So, if people want to queue back in if they have questions. Councillor Davey.
Thank you. Just one question. I'm actually really happy with staff's work on this, but one thing, I'm not sure if I'd raised it in the past or not, but first of all, is it possible for us as a bonusing item to add a sort of a first-in option? So if there are areas where we would like to see intensification more so, in lieu of any other incentives, we could make it a competitive environment by saying that within a certain area, the first developer to come forward with a proposal gets a higher FSR as of right. So number one, can we do that? And number two, do you think that would potentially add value?
Through the chair, the bylaw before you is not set up that way. That would be a little challenging to do. One option that council could consider conceivably is breaking it down into different geographies, so different districts of downtown. So if there's a desire in the innovation district for something or a community benefit, in theory, you could scope it to less than the list that is there, or change the values to make it higher for whatever the topic might be. It's a little difficult to do what you've suggested by using encoding it into the bylaw approach.
Okay, yeah, I'm not, I just floating the idea, I'm not strong on it. My only other question is, supposing some unforeseen benefit comes up, even in the near term, how difficult is it to add new incentives? Like, it's not necessary. Is it necessary for us to reopen the entire bonusing bylaw, or would we be able to, like, ad hoc, if there's some, I don't know, like an electric scooter initiative or something, that we could add it later on?
Through the chair, yes, that can be done as a one-off. I mean, there are many opportunities. We have an annual bylaw update that we do, or we have future stages of the bylaw. The intent is that this will change over time. Like, once we're starting to experience lots of affordable housing and public art and net zero buildings downtown or in some districts, we would considerably reduce what's there. So if something changes, yes, there's definitely many opportunities.
Okay, that helps. Thank you very much.
So just on that, I assume that the bonus for food store is something that would act like Councillor Davies suggesting. So it's not like we're going to wait for 10 food stores before we amend the bylaw. Is that right?
Exactly. That would be a good problem to have.
Okay, great. Councillor Chapman.
Yeah. So I'm just going to reiterate a question I sent to you yesterday or whenever it was. And my question is, it's about the minimum gross density of the downtown UGC area. So in section 15.d. I don't know if you say dots in these things, .22 of the official plan, it states that by 2031, the UGC must achieve a minimum gross density target of 225 residents and jobs combined per hectare. So I understand that. My question is, what was the gross density of the downtown UGC in 2014? And what will the gross density in the downtown and the UGC be after these billion-dollar developments have been completed?
Through the chair, in 2014, it was estimated to be 169 residents and jobs per hectare. Once the development occurs and is occupied, it'll be higher than that. We don't have an estimate of exactly what it will be. It depends on the timing and when it's occupied and when the new development is leased and when jobs appear. Every year we do an annual monitoring report to track that.
Can you give us an approximate amount?
Through the chair, we hope that it will be healthy. 225 is, why would we not want even higher? Like, this is the prime intensification area. That's a numerical target. We're trying to build a healthy, livable downtown with diverse economic interests and a place for all. It's the place where we want the multimodal hub and want transit. It's going to be higher, and it should be higher. It's a way to help conserve some of the central neighborhoods as well.
So I take it from what you're saying that we're probably already there, and we're just wanting to go higher. Is that what I can take from what your vague response?
Through the chair, I think that would be inaccurate. I don't think we're already there with the
I don't
approvals.
mean now, I mean after these developments are completed.
I think with the developments, we would not be there yet. We will be checking, when there's the next census, we'll find out. We're definitely on a good track.
Okay. I mean, my question is in relation to, well, both development charges and bonusing, so I'll just leave it at that. I hope that at some point you can give us when do you say the next update will come forward?
The next update will be to you on currently scheduled for August committee.
August? Okay.
For the next growth management monitoring report, August or September 9th.
Okay, thank you. So my other, okay, I don't have much time, do I? Some of the other questions I have, I mean, I like the, and I know this is a lot of work, I mean, so I don't doubt that for a moment, right? And I've tried to go over the official plan and the bonusing part of it. I've tried to look at the Crosby and and a lot of it, of course, I don't understand, right? Because I don't have the history and the knowledge that you have. But so I'm just trying to make sense of some of these bonusing options. So one of my questions is, if the Crosby passes, does that mean there will be no more site-specific? It's like bonusing, right? But it's not bonusing. Site-specific modifications of the zoning bylaws. Will it only be, once Crosby is passed, will it only be through bonusing that a developer can increase their floor space ratio?
Through the chair, it is to the developer proponent to decide that.
So we don't control that.
So if they wish to do a development and use bonusing that is up to the amounts that were shown in the slide with the map, then it would come through a site development application. If they want to do a development that is greater than that, then it would still be a site-specific zoning bylaw amendment if they're using bonusing.
And what would the advantage or disadvantage of one or the other be for a developer?
Time, expense, risk,
Can you
certainty.
just break that down? Like, what does that mean?
Through the chair, that is relatively self-explanatory in terms of the time, the risk, the certainty. I guess in bottom line involves cost.
But why would cost differ if you go the bonusing route versus a site-specific route? What's the difference?
Through the chair, the difference is several months of process.
Okay, but can you explain to me what that means?
So I wonder if we can take this part of the discussion offline, if it's not germane to
well,
today.
It is kind of germane to
Okay. We've got a few additional staff. I'm going to call on Mr. Reedman first.
If Mr. Pennard is going to buzz in, maybe I'll let him answer.
Here we got Mr.
Through the chair, I think maybe one quick explanation is that if the developer wants to apply and use the predefined bonuses as defined in our bylaw in exchange for the values that we have in our bylaw, they do not have to apply for an amendment to the zoning bylaw. They would be able to, within the parameters that are predefined, obtain up to 8 FSR. If they want to go beyond 8 FSR, or if they're looking to have a different deal than what is predefined, meaning proposing benefits that are different than those that are in the bylaw or for different values, then they would also have to file an application to amend the zoning bylaw. Amending the zoning bylaw is not only a timely, something that's time-consuming, takes time costs money, we hear that all the time from our development partners, but also there are costs and risks. It becomes appealable. So those are the downsides for the development industry. The benefits are that it is predetermined in advance. For this, you get this. So that I think maybe perhaps that would explain that situation to the councillor.
Yes, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I'm out of time.
Yeah, but there's nobody else in the queue. What I do want to know, sorry, you have more questions, Councillor Chapman?
Well, one of the other things that I noticed is if we look at the proposed, or well, as they appear here, I've sort of lettered them because I don't know how else to identify them, but the last 4 community benefit categories, none of them appear as categories in the official plan, so these have obviously been added on, whereas all the others do as categories. I mean, we looked at this together, right, Brandon, or Mr. Sloan? And my concern with these 4 categories is, first of all, design excellence is a pretty arbitrary category that, you know, what you consider design excellence might be very different to what somebody else in the planning department might consider design excellence. When we talk about business incubator accelerator space, or we talk about food stores, again, what is the staying power of these things? So until the guidelines are completed, which I understand they've barely been initiated, how can we ensure that a developer doesn't come along and say, oh, we're going to put a food store on the main floor and we've got this contract, but, you know, maybe the food store goes bankrupt and the food store moves out tomorrow, and in the meantime we've given this dramatic increase in floor space ratio. So things that don't have any staying power, how do we justify putting them in a bonusing a category that would increase this space?
Let's let staff answer your couple of questions there.
Sure, through the chair. Those items came up through the public process. So we've been conducting the public process over the last 3 or 4 years, and this is in response to comments that we've received from a variety of different individuals. And so food store still seems to be one of the topics that's of importance. How it's secured would be through the agreement. So the agreement would have the stipulations about how long, what would happen if it changed, what constitutes a food store. There's different ways you can have food store. It doesn't necessarily have to be the certain brand names that we're familiar with. But in the agreement, that's what would give you the certainty for how long. There's more that I could add to that, but
okay, one last question, and then I'm going to ask for a modification. And my last question...
Sorry, one sec. Before we continue, Mr. Bloom might have something to add.
Just through the chair, on the business incubator accelerator space, like in Noun, for example, we would expect that it wouldn't just be the developer owning it for some period of time, but it would actually be, for example, a condo space that is deeded over to whether it's the city or a university or some long-standing partner that we knew would operate that space in perpetuity and actually own the rights to that space. So on that one, we would imagine a scenario where it actually comes into some form of public ownership.
And so this will all come out in the guidelines? Yeah? Okay. And you guys are okay with moving forward with bonusing without guidelines?
Through the chair, yes. We started drafting them about 3 years ago. We have taken into account the feedback we've received thus far on the comments. But the other thing is we need to have confirmation if council's wishing to proceed with this so that you can finish the implementation guideline. The other thing is it's helpful to have an example or two as well so that you can ensure that you have a flexible, adaptive process to help for the implementation in the future.
Okay, I could keep asking questions, but what I'd like to know is, would you consider in the affordable housing, special needs assisted or subsidized housing section, would you be willing to increase even more the floor space ratio than what you're proposing here? So what comes to mind is really in the second category of 25%, would you be willing to consider increasing that to 2.5 FSR?
Through the chair, yes. Affordable housing is one of our top priorities. That's how we did this kind of tiered relative priority approach. Affordable housing was intended to be one of the more attractive and higher ones. If council wishes to make that even a higher priority, it's definitely in your purview to do that, and I think staff would be supportive of that.
Okay, so we have no further people in the queue. Just want to ask staff for clarification on our first page of the staff report. I think there might be a typo. Is it greater than 50%? Is that 2.5 FSR?
To the chair, no, that's correct.
It's 1.5?
Yeah, the philosophy is that although it's definitely desirable and helpful to have a full 100% affordable housing building, the top preference is to have a mixed building, a mixed income building. So that's why it's tiered and structured that way. So you actually would get more of an incentive, more floor space if you have a mixed building versus a entirely 100% or 10%.
Okay, gotcha. So perhaps we can between now and council, if Councillor Chapman, if you're looking at increasing the FSR bonusing for something in that range between 25 and 50, then can you bring that back to council? Okay. Councillor Singh.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before the item started, I was out, so I didn't get the chance to declare this, but I wanted to declare my conflict as I have family members that own real estate within the Urban Growth Center.
Okay, thank you. That's noted, and thank you. All right, so are there any, so is anybody prepared to move the recommendation? Councillor Galloway Sealaw? All right. Any discussion? Those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. All right, so that concludes the first part of our meeting today, and we will resume discussion at 7 o'clock. And as of right now, we have a bunch of eager 10 to 12-year-olds coming to meet us. So I don't know, Madam Clerk, are they coming in here now, or? Yes, so they come in here first, and then we go. Okay, thank you.